The contact name and phone number of the organization that you are nominating. And thanks from your friends at WOCA and Chick-fil-A in the Paddock Mall. All right, 27 minutes before 8 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. You know, I'm stistill getting over that cold I had, Robin.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And doing that Halloween voice I was trying to do, you know. I think re-aggravated it. Either that or I'm nervous about speaking to our next guest. I'm not really sure what it is.
Yeah,
because that can happen too. My throat sometimes gets tight when I know there's somebody on the phone that I admire or am angry with. I've had that happen too. I am so angry with you.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, my voice is really. I kind of like it like this, though. All right, I don't want to take any more time away from Adrian Wyllie. He was already wrongfully cheated out of participating in the debates. I was absolutely appalled by that, but not surprised because money is the ruling thing in politics in America. And Adrian Wyllie has some really good ideas. I'll tell you that I do admire him and like what I've read about him. Never spoke to him before except for just now when I said, we got 18 minutes, Mr. Wyllie. I mean seconds. We got 18. I know. I didn't really say it like that.
No, you didn't sound like
that. Hey, we got 18 seconds. Adrian Wyllie, if you don't know, is a military veteran. How many of you knew that? He served our country. He served you and I in the 56th Air Defense Artillery and the 53rd Infantry Brigade. He served as chairman of the Libertarian Party of Florida. He's a community leader, which you probably knew that already. I didn't know he was a radio host.
No, I didn't either.
In fact, he's the co-founder of the 1787 Radio Network. I don't think there were radios back then. He's the president of an IT consulting firm, third-generation Floridian, and obviously a candidate for governor for the state of Florida. And let's say good morning to Adrian Wyllie. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Larry, Robin, I'm doing great, and I'm a little nervous to talk to you as well.
No, you're not.
Not many times you get an opportunity like this.
Yeah, well, that's sweet. I appreciate that. Where are you right now?
I'm at the home base here in Palm Harbor, and getting ready for a big media day, and then kicking off this afternoon a 3-day South Florida tour.
Well, I love the fact that you're making waves. And can I ask you something? Are the other two candidates veterans?
Well, I believe that Rick Scott served briefly in the Navy.
Okay. I just didn't know, and I wasn't using that in any way. I just didn't know, but I wanted to ask anyway.
And I just want to clarify. I mean, I did serve my country, but I'm not retired military. I never served in combat. So really, that I don't even necessarily like that veteran label. I kind of reserve that for people who did a lot more than I have.
And that's typical of people who've done what you've done. But let me tell you from my perspective, if you at any point said, you know what, I'm willing to put my life on the line for this country, then you deserve that title, veteran. That's the way I feel. So thank you for that. And the humbleness you just expressed was not unusual for guys like you. So anyway, thank you for being on the air with us. I was so disappointed when you were not allowed. You even went through the courts, and a judge says, no, you can't be in the debates.
Yeah, it was actually worse than that. Not only it was a federal judge. We took it to federal court because it was a First Amendment issue. But the judge wouldn't even hear our case, wouldn't even allow us a hearing.
Isn't that absurd?
Just effectively threw it all out.
Isn't that absurd? And the press also. I mean, the press is obviously rooting for either a Republican or a Democrat, depending on which press you're talking about. They don't even think. I swear I don't think they think. I think the people are cheated when they don't get to hear what the other... There's two others also. You're not the only third party. You're the only one that caught our attention, but there's two other names on the ballot.
Yes.
Besides the three of you.
Well, what the media, and you have to understand that the media is also a business. And for example, the Florida Press Association, which organized the second debate, they also have a for-profit wing that brokers advertising dollars. And when you think that right now Rick Scott and Charlie Crist are the two biggest advertising clients in the state of Florida, you know, that money has a huge influence on them. So when Rick Scott and Charlie Crist say, we don't want Adrian Wyllie in the debates, the media listens because, you know, between the two of them, they've spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 million on advertising.
Guess how much they spent here at this station?
I have no idea.
Nothing. Nothing. And even if they had, it wouldn't change my mind about talking to you this morning. So,
well, I appreciate that.
All right. So let's talk about the important things that you have. There's a 7-point plan that you outline on your website. I would encourage anybody who is seriously thinking about, voting for Mr. Wyllie to go to the website. What was it again? Was it just your name? I can't remember.
It's WylieForGovernor.com. WYLLIEFOR governor.com.
Okay. Our listeners are very happy that you said yes to coming on this show, by the way. And in general, I'm sure you know this, but in general, I think talk show listeners are the ones who really, truly think before they cast their ballot.
Oh, yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I've been a radio talk show listener for decades and a host for about 5 years until the campaign ramped up to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. So, yeah, it's the interaction that you get on talk radio is something that you really don't find in other places.
So let's talk about the 7 points. Let's see. Robin kind of helped me out here with some cheat sheets. But I'll let you start. What is the most important thing you would like to accomplish if you were elected to be governor?
Well, probably the thing that I have the most direct control over as governor would be the state budget. And we have to understand that the spending in the state of Florida is getting out of control. Charlie Crist, as governor, increased spending by $6 billion. Rick Scott has increased spending by $11 billion. So right there, that's 17. I actually have a plan to cut the state budget by $23 billion. Get us back to about 2002, 2003 spending levels. And when we do that, we're just doing it by cutting out the cronyism. There's so many backroom deals that are just wasting taxpayer dollars, the fraud, the abuse, the redundancy. But then we can do things like I'm proposing a 100% homestead tax exemption, so no Floridian pays property tax on their home. And that's what we can do when we start to limit the size and scope of the state government. We can actually put more money, on average $200 per month, back in the pockets of the people who earn it.
So I have to ask this. How would we pay for the things that those taxes pay for now?
Well, right now your property taxes are going to your county services. But once we cut the state budget, the state no longer requires all of that 6 cents out of every dollar in sales tax. So what we can do is we can drop the state's portion down to approximately 4 cents out of every dollar, take that remaining 2 cents and reallocate it to the counties. So it's revenue neutral for the counties. There's still plenty of money for roads and fire and police and schools and parks. But yet, the county's fully funded and people get to keep more of what they earn.
Okay, so that 6% would stay in place? That 6% sales tax?
Yeah, the sales tax overall amount would not change. What would change is the state would get less of it because it needs less for the lower budget, and the counties would get more. In most cases, the counties would triple their sales tax revenue from that.
Any of the plans that would help out the small businesses that are trying to get started or that are already struggling? And could you do anything about the small businesses that are being crippled by the Affordable Health Care Act?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I've got a very specific plan to do that. And it's called the Florida Intrastate Commerce Act. And what that says is that any business that operates exclusively within the borders of Florida, which is going to apply to most small and medium-sized businesses, is going to be immune from any federal regulation whatsoever, including Obamacare. And we can do that because we have the constitutional authority. The Commerce Clause of the Constitution only gives the federal government the authority to regulate commerce that occurs between states, not within a state. And Kansas has already done something similar to this and been successful. Other states are looking into it. And I really think that is the way to remove the hurdles and the barriers to entry and the reason that so many small business owners tell me that they're not hiring new workers because of all the federal regulation and the costs associated with it.
Yeah.
Education is first and forefront on my mind always. I mean, even locally here, they've cut the music and the art programs and things like that, and now they're thinking about bringing in Common Core. And my opinion is I'm not a big fan of that. What would you do about that initiative?
Well, Robin, I can tell you I've been fighting against Common Core for several years now, long before I considered running for governor. I will do everything in my power to repeal it. Now, as far as the funding goes, it is just, outrageous to me how our state education funding works. Now, for overall spending, we're spending on average $12,000 per student per year. That should be more than enough to pay a teacher a great salary, have the arts, music, sports, all the supplies you need. That's a huge amount of money. But the problem is it's all being wasted through bureaucracy, through bloated single-source, no-bid contracts for education services and things like that, and through all the mid-tier bureaucracy. I mean, how many times have you seen a palatial school administrative building that costs tens or millions of dollars, things like that, and then you go to the school and our kids are in a double-wide trailer?
Yeah.
That's the problem. The money's not reaching the classroom. So my plan is A, to repeal Common Core, and B, get control and funding back to the local level where teachers and parents and students have input and the money is actually making it to the classroom.
Does South Florida's needs, I guess I'll say it as a statement rather than a question, South Florida's needs, or the urban needs of the state, maybe I'll put it that way, are probably way different than the rural needs. Would the educational decision, I've always thought if the educational decisions were left to the school board of each district, then those students would be better served, because in a rural area, your kids are going to be doing something else for a living than the kids in the cities.
That's absolutely correct, and that's the solution to it. Each county has an elected school board that is responsive to the parents, to the teachers, to the community. Both my kids went through Florida public schools, and when I had an issue, I got on the phone and called either my the child's school principal or the superintendent or the school board member and got a response. But with Common Core, everything's coming down from D.C., and you're not going to get some bureaucrat in Washington to fix a problem for you. So that's the solution, is to give the local school boards the authority to chart the course for the schools and to set the curriculum for the school, because different counties and different areas of the state have different needs, and their students are best served by the local community.
Now, sometimes the federal government strong arms the states by saying, "Look, if you don't do it our way, you're not getting this money." Would that be the case if you tried to do that?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But we have to understand that any time that we as a state accept federal funding, but that federal funding has strings attached that either makes Floridians' lives worse or takes away our civil liberties or constitutional rights, we should and must reject that funding. Because what the federal government tends to do is they tend to use our own tax dollars to bribe us to surrender our liberty.
Right.
And
yes.
there's no cause for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, see, I knew I'd like you.
Yes.
All right. Let me do a break here, and I have so many questions, and I know Robin does too. But I also think our listeners might want to ask. Are you okay with calls?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, all right. So if you want to call, Rob and I will ask a couple of questions, but we will make sure that you get your calls in, your questions in. So the phone number is 622-9622. If you're listening out of the area code is 352. 352-622-9622. If you like what you hear and you want to share it with somebody, we are recording this entire thing. And on the video, you'll see a picture of Mr. Wyllie and his running mate. What's your running mate's name?
Greg Rowe.
Greg Rowe, okay.
And great guy and 30-year insurance agent. He's going to help us fix Florida's insurance issues.
Oh, okay, excellent. Well, let me take that little break, and we'll be right back. This is The Source, WOCA Ocala.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. It'll be mostly sunny today, with highs ranging from the mid-70s to the low 80s across the area. Tonight, mainly clear, lows in the upper 40s, well inland, mid-50s along the coast. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, breezy, and noticeably cooler, the highs in the 60s. For Sunday, mostly sunny and chilly with a high of 65 to 70. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Get it for less at the DIY Home Center outlet. Get top quality real wood cabinets the same or less than the big box stores are selling the cheap stuff. And that's not all. Drywall screws big box stores are $6.47 a pound. At DIY, only $4.99. Plus, DIY has the largest selection of mobile home parts and accessories anywhere. From carpet to doors, get the DIY supplies you need for less. The DIY Home Center outlet. We are your building material closeout store. 2191 Northwest 10th Street, just 2 miles east of I-75.
Are you tired of not using your home's outdoor space for entertaining or relaxation because of all the bugs and leaves? Consider adding a beautiful screen room or glass enclosure. We are Superior Aluminum and Design, a family-owned and operated business with 20 years experience in the aluminum industry, and we are accredited by the Better Business Bureau. If you appreciate superior workmanship, call Superior Aluminum and Design at 817-8058 or visit us on the web at superiораluminumdesign.com.
Hey, Matt, I know Sunrise Automotive does auto stuff, but I need some tires for my truck. Can you recommend someone?
Yes, I can. We do that.
No, I mean, I need them installed and balanced and all that.
Yep, we do that.
Well, my son needed his windows tinted.
Yep, we do that.
I need my seat replaced.
Yep, we do that too.
I need a new roof line, and a new spoiler, and a new trunk.
We can even do that too.
Okay, I get it. I suppose you can also do a radio show too, huh?
Well, as a matter of fact, join me every Monday at 10 for auto repair with personal care here on The Source.
Of course you do.
All right, 12 minutes before 8 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Adrian Wyllie waiting on hold to come back and speak to us again. The phone line is open if you would like to ask Mr. Wyllie a question. The number, again, 352-622-9622. Adrian Wyllie, I wanted to tell you something. As a talk show host, I'm sure you've had this same experience, that when we interview people who are anti-capitalism, and then I try to ask them the question, well, how would you suggest that we make money? It's like when Hillary Clinton the other day said, don't let anybody tell you that corporations and businesses create jobs. It was like, you gotta be kidding. How can you say that? It's hard to convince people that it is the very act of buying something or buying something low and selling it high, or making something and selling it, that has made us a great country, and yet they're anti-capitalist. I don't even understand that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've learned something over the course of this election, and this is through talking to a lot of people that you would consider on the left side of the political spectrum. What they're looking at, they're blaming capitalism for many of the ills that we have today, but what we don't have today is free market capitalism. We have some type of corporatism, cronyism, even with elements of both fascism and socialism. So when they blame capitalism, they're misidentifying the problem. They're thinking capitalism means the government giving $1 trillion to bail out the global banks, whereas true free market capitalism is everybody stands or falls on their own merit because they build a better mousetrap or offer a better service. So I can almost understand some of the blame on capitalism because they're blaming what we see today. And if they can be shown what real laissez-faire free market capitalism is, I think it would make a big difference to them. They say, oh, yeah, that does work.
Well, and you could also say the money going the other direction is another reason to be suspect or suspicious of capitalism. If money is going to a candidate or to a campaign, and it's some kind of, circumvents the protocol, and the money somehow gets there anyway through 5 different family members all giving them the minimum, or the maximum rather.
And that's part of the problem. Is the reason that the big corporations buy influence is because government has too much power. I say solve the root cause of the problem by taking away some of that power from government to pick winners and losers in the market. And the corporations will give up giving money because they say, they really can't do anything for us anyway. Let's just get back to work.
Can I ask you to express your thoughts on gambling? We've got a large contingency of people who want to see Florida have a lot of casinos, slot machines in a lot of different places, and then there's the Indian reservations versus the rest of the state. What are your thoughts on that whole thing? And if you could throw in the state lottery with that.
Sure. Well, first of all, we have to understand that we have some of the most bizarre and schizophrenic and confusing laws on gambling right now. For example, we allow casinos and off-track betting and poker rooms at dog tracks, yet when small business owners try to set up mom-and-pop little sweepstake places with fake slot machines, the government comes in and shuts them down and puts 14,000 people out of work. As a libertarian, I believe that, the laws should be uniform. And I would like to see we open the door to gambling. I mean, and like you said, the state lotto, the state of Florida is the largest purveyor of gambling in the state of Florida.
Yeah, sure is.
So, it's so hypocritical. It's so ridiculous, our gambling laws. I say that let's just open it up. If someone wants to build a casino, let them build a casino. And if a local community says, we don't want it here, well, they have the right through county ordinance and city zoning laws to say, no, you can't build it here. So, everything can be solved just by getting government out of the way.
Medical marijuana is on the ballot this time around. There are so many people that seem to be against it, and I'm for it. Why do you think they're against something like that when it can help people? Because it will be regulated.
Well, I think that, marijuana has been so demonized for generations, primarily by industries who it competed with. Really, the reason behind marijuana being so demonized is the hemp industry was actually competitive with industries like cotton. It was competitive with some energy industries. So that was, the reason. But, I think we have to look at it like, first of all, it is a medicine. Study after study shows it's very, very effective in treating a whole wide range of debilitating and fatal illnesses. But also, I look at it from a full legalization standpoint. I don't believe that the government has the authority to tell peaceful adults what they can or can't put into their body. And I also look at it from a practical and historical context. The only time that people were ever killing each other in the streets over alcohol was in the early 20th century during Prohibition. And when you prohibit something like this that people are going to do anyway, you create a black market, you create associated crime and violence. In this case, the Prohibition is what's propping up the drug cartels and the street gangs and causing us to send a whole bunch of young people to prison at great expense, both to the communities, breaking up families, and to the taxpayer having to incarcerate them. So legalizing it just solves so many problems.
Another polarizing issue is the environment. There are good arguments, really, on both sides of the environmental discussion, and I'll give it to both sides. We've spoken to the environmentalists. I don't know that they're extreme, but they're environmentalists. And then there are those who don't want to see changing anything as far as energy is concerned. They want to stick with, fossil fuels, as we call them. And recently there was an effort to try to persuade, I guess is a better word, Governor Scott to change his mind about global warming. We here in this county, I'm sure the whole state we've got beautiful rivers here. We want to make sure they stay beautiful. So whether there's global warming or not, that's really not an issue for me. For me, it's keeping the rivers clean, but I'm not a radical environmentalist. What are your thoughts on the environment? The Everglades always comes up with these discussions too.
Well, again, as a practical person, as a libertarian, I always look at the root cause of the problem, and I actually would consider myself an environmentalist. But I look at our government agencies like the EPA and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the FDEP, as essentially being rubber stamp agencies to protect polluters. And the federal government is actually the worst polluter in the state of Florida. They're the ones responsible for all the damage to the Everglades right now, and they're the ones whose actions are directly killing the Indian River Lagoon and the Caloosahatchee. So when you realize that, you can be an environmentalist and still say that the EPA, FDEP, the government is doing it all wrong, you can say those two things. It doesn't mean we need more regulations. We actually need less regulations because right now these polluters are saying to the people, well, hey, I can pollute because I have a permit from government to do it. So government is essentially protecting these guys. But let's take Big Sugar, for example. If Big Sugar can dump more fertilizer into the canal system, which causes algae blooms and all kinds of other problems, all they need to do is pay a $25,000, $50,000 permit fee to do it. But if that protection wasn't there, the people of Florida could perhaps form a $1 billion class action lawsuit. Now, which are they going to be more afraid of, that $25,000 fine or permit or a $1 billion class action lawsuit? That's the kind of way you change behavior.
How does protecting the people that are in the state of Florida fit in your plans again for terrorism? Because that is really first and forefront also.
Well, I think that the best defense against terrorism is an alert and armed populace. So I am a huge proponent of the Second Amendment. I support open carry in the state of Florida. And I think that, in conjunction with working with federal agencies when appropriate for intelligence sharing and keeping the Department of the state, Florida Department of Law Enforcement and Florida Highway Patrol on alert for that sort of thing is the right way to go. But really, if you look at the event since 9/11, it has been the people who have prevented more acts of terrorism than any government agency.
Oh, I concur with that.
We're so out of time. We've got 2 minutes left. I was going to ask you about unions, but I wanted to give you the last 2 minutes to say, I guess, some final words. For the listeners, most of what Robert and I have asked, Mr. Wyllie has already answered, actually, on his website. Go to WylieForGovernor.com, and that'll help you out. I haven't voted yet. I wanted to hear from you. And I've actually studied you, so I kind of knew what I wanted to do when I vote, which I'll probably do this weekend.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to wait till Tuesday. But take the next minute or so and just kind of give us some final words.
Well, I'd just like to say that obviously I'm the underdog in this race, and it is a long shot for me to win. We're polling in the high teens right now, according to the latest internal polling. But I want your listeners to know that there is so little difference between Rick Scott and Charlie Crist. They are two sides of the same coin. And if you're thinking about voting for one of them because they're the lesser evil, don't do it. We have to stop voting for evil because evil is what we always get. I'm urging you to vote for me. Even if I don't win, if we get a phenomenal chunk of the vote, that will influence things. That will change things. That will give the people who realize the two-party system is broken beyond repair a voice in Florida. So I urge you to vote for me on Election Day.
All right. Thank you for being on the air with us this morning, Mr. Wyllie. That was a great interview, and hopefully it was good on your end. And for everybody else, we recorded this. Share the video with whoever you would like to share it with. And, of course, go to WylieForGovernor.com, WYLLIE, WylieForGovernor.com. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you for being on with us today.
Larry, Robin, my pleasure. Good talking with you.
You too. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. One of America's most wanted, a suspected